Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deergan. Alongside me, as always, is my great circle, Josh.
I don't know whether to be insulted by that one or not.
It's people are looking forward to Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, so you should be excited.
Well, some people are looking forward to it, Corey.
I am.
Others are rather perturbed, very vocally online, that it is a first-person game.
Oh my gosh. Here's the thing, Josh. Would I have preferred a third-person Uncharted or Tomb Raider style adventure? Sure. Do I know Machine Games is great at first-person action games? Yes.
Yes.
Does this game desperately not need to be compared to Uncharted or Tomb Raider?
Yes.
Yes. So,
yeah, if this game had been third, and we're going to get into breaking down the full direct, but man, if this had been third person, I don't think I could have handled the discourse around it for like the next year.
Yeah.
I barely survived like 3 days. So,
yeah. And then super PlayStation fanboys would have come out and be like, they just made Uncharted.
Yeah. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Yeah.
But
then I saw a bunch of people like, they should have just made another Wolfenstein game. And I'm like, oh my gosh, come on, guys.
Then y'all would have complained about that and wouldn't have played that either. So
yeah. You guys didn't play the last one. At least this has an IP that people recognize and might play.
Right.
Not that people don't recognize Wolfenstein, but I think most people think of like the 90s PC game.
I think a lot of us still have, like, when we think of Wolfenstein, we think of like Return to Castle Wolfenstein on the original Xbox.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's what I think of when I think of Wolfenstein. That's the game that goes to my mind. Not that New Order and New Colossus weren't good, but that's where my mind immediately goes.
You know which game nobody thinks of? The Raven
Youngblood?
game on Xbox 360.
Oh. I know one person who likes that game. And they didn't even like love it. They like tolerated it.
Oh, well. You know, I don't know. I can't
Could that come to Game Pass now?
I mean,
now that Microsoft owns Raven and id.
Sure. Yeah. Why not? Bring it all.
Bring it all.
Castlevania too. Or Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
Yeah, also. bring Return to Castle Wolfenstein. I would like that. That's one of like
Return to Castlevania, the Dead Cells expansion to Game Pass as well.
I have like 4 or 5 original Xbox games that are not like various Halo collector's editions.
Yeah,
and Return to Castle Wolfenstein is one of those. So
it's a good video game.
It's a great video game.
That was one of those weird games where like they made a separate game for PlayStation and Xbox, but they are essentially the same game. They just had different titles and like remixed levels.
And like one of them is distinctly better and more remembered than the other.
Yeah.
Because Return to Castle Wolfenstein on Xbox is the same as the PC game.
Yeah.
It's funny, like it's funny you brought that up. This has like nothing to do with what we're going to talk about tonight, but I was thinking back with all the rumors around Switch 2 swirling and how like there are some Super Nintendo fans in the media who are like, oh my god, the first year lineup is going to rival that of the Switch, and I'm like, yo, let's calm down a little bit here. Like let's pump the brakes. Let's pump the brakes just a little bit here, Jeeves. I was thinking back to like great launch windows and like, yeah, we typically consider a launch window to be like the first 6 months after a console launches. And like, yeah, you have to talk about the Switch because Breath of the Wild and Splatoon 2 alone, that's a great launch window, right?
Right.
You think back to the GameCube and that was a great launch window.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like the 360 is a really underappreciated one. Because you look at that, this is a list of the games that they had that I would say were like 7.5s or higher. You had Perfect Dark Zero, you had Cameo, Project Gotham Racing 3, Call of Duty 2. Now keep in mind, this is the PC Call of Duty 2. This is not the one that came to PS2 and GameCube and all those. This is not Big Red 1. This is actual Call of Duty 2. It had an attach rate of like 77%. That's fucking bonkers for a launch title, by the way.
Yeah.
That's like Breath of the Wild level.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous. But then you also have a completely different version of Need for Speed Most Wanted, Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. There was one other third party game, but they are like clearly far and away the best versions that exist of these games.
Advanced Warfighter.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if we're expanding it to the whole window, yes, Ghost Recon 100%. That is like that the definitive version of that game. You had Oblivion in that launch window. Like that's kind of a silly launch lineup. Amp 3 came out, which is low key a really underappreciated extreme sports game.
Mm-hmm.
But man, just what a crazy launch window. Like if you would have told me that launch lineup 6 months, in fact, when we were told that 6 months before it all came out, I would not have predicted that Perfect Dark is the worst game on that list.
Yeah.
And that's saying something when Cameo is one of your games.
Mm-hmm.
So, Cameo, the game that famously red ringed my Xbox. It was trying to warn me.
Fun fact, I never had a red ring of death.
Yeah, I got red ringed on day one. So 13-year-old me was absolutely devastated. I had worked all year to save up to buy a 360 on launch day, and I got home, plugged it in, and it red ringed on me 10 minutes into Cameo. I was so upset and so disappointed. I had to learn what DHL was at that point. And it took them like 2 months to get me my Xbox. Yep. It arrived like the day after Christmas or something is when it came back. So I guess it took like a month. My Xbox arrived, and I was able. And then I kept that 360 until I traded it in for my Xbox One. But man, that thing had some battle scars. Great fucking console, by the way. Like I've gotten like oddly reminiscent thinking about the 360 this week because Epic announced that Rock Band is going to cease getting DLC.
Yeah.
And that is like just probably like other than Halo nights, that's like my fondest memories of the 360 is we warmed up with Rock Band and then we played Halo all night. We had to play Rock Band when our parents were still awake because the drum sets were so loud for it.
Yeah.
And also because like there was always like 6 or 7 of us, so like we had somebody on everything. So like, you don't want kids singing at like 3:00 in the morning. We were told we had to switch over to Halo 3 after midnight. But man, I'm really, really, really gonna miss that. I cannot believe they're gonna end their run with 3,000 songs in that library. That's kind of stupid. Like I can't. I looked through a list of all of the DLC songs the other day, and I was just like, Jesus, like you could probably still come up with like another like 200-300 songs that should be on there that aren't on there for various reasons.
I'm sure,
whether they're rights issues or whatever. And I just couldn't believe that. I was like, oh my god, how how on earth is this? How on earth is this a thing? I can't believe that Rock Band is having to die for Fortnite Festival, but. Anyways, that's my soliloquy for tonight. Rock Band is dying for Fortnite Festival, which I'm very bummed out about.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of knew that was going to happen eventually, though, right? I mean, it kind of, especially once Fortnite Festival was announced, you knew.
Yeah, once it was announced, and they said in their statement about Rock Band coming to a close that they've been working on Fortnite Festival for 2 years. And I mean, the DLC had been slowing up for Rock Band. They had really been focusing on bringing over the last couple of years a lot of the songs from like 1, 2, and 3, bringing them out as DLC. Like you previously couldn't get them unless you imported them, and I guess like they kind of had an inkling that they were going to get winded down, and decided to start bringing those forward back in 2020, 2021, something like that. So for several years now, they've been bringing those forward in addition to new DLCs. It's kind of fitting that the final songs they're putting out are like goodbye songs. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is one of them. By the time we do the next episode, the final songs will be out. They're coming out next Thursday, I want to say. I think they're coming out either this Thursday or Friday. is when the final songs are coming out. So Closing Time will not be the final song. That was one that they did years and years ago, the first time they cut off the DLC. So I do wonder if this is like the permanent goodbye, or if like in a couple years they wander back. Because we saw this once before, and if the instruments are popular enough, I mean, I'm sure that they're just gonna like quadruple down on Festival, which is a shame. The songs are also like insanely more expensive in Fortnite than they ever have been in the Rock Band shop.
Yeah, well, I'm sure
they're like 500 V-bucks a piece,
which is what, $4.
That's like $4. A song in Rock Band costs you 99 cents to $2, and you can play it on any of those instruments.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a bummer. I'm like, I'd rather just like bust my old instruments out and bust my my 360 out and just go to town on these songs.
Yeah.
But such is life. Such is the life of a live service game. What an end for one of the first true console live service games.
Oh man, dude. Yeah, I mean, between Guitar Hero and Rock Band, dude, those plastic instruments were everywhere for like almost a decade. So many games, so many plastic guitars.
It's funny, like Activision really is the one that drove this into the ground, though, because Rock Band, you got the first Rock Band, and then the second one came out the following year, and then they didn't release one for like 4 years.
They released. I mean, they released that interstitial Beatles one, right? I mean, that was like a special release, though.
I don't really like consider the Beatles one as like part of the oversaturation.
No,
because
I don't either.
that was so unique, and like you could still only play those games on that disc.
Yeah, the oversaturation was like after Guitar Hero 3, you had like Aerosmith and Van Halen and Metallica had their own versions of, those games, and it was
I mean, you had those. They tried to expand to a full band with Guitar Hero, and it just never worked as well as it did with Rock Band.
Yeah,
because they didn't support the DLC across games.
Yeah, and then they had what was it? They had DJ Hero, and they had like the pop version of Guitar Hero, right? That was, I forget what it was called, like Band Hero or...
Yeah, they had Band Hero. They had something else. I mean, we shouldn't excuse Rock Band from this because they did Lego Rock Band at one point. That was a thing. That was the family-friendly one, which I found out that System of a Down songs are apparently family-friendly.
Sure they
are. You can play Toxicity in Lego Rock Band.
Yeah.
I had less of a problem when Rock Band did this stuff, though, because like you could just import those songs to your normal Rock Band. So it was kind of like you were buying like disc-based DLC in a lot of ways. That didn't bother me as much. Like they did 2 specific bands for Rock Band. They did the Beatles one. They did a Green Day one, which that was at the point of like where I think we all thought, okay, music games are just like way oversaturated if we're doing Green Day. At least with Green Day, I'll say you got 3 full albums as part of it, plus some of their other songs.
Yeah.
But that, like you said, like we had gotten Aerosmith, Metallica, Van Halen, Band Hero, DJ Hero, like all of those came out in an 18-month span. Like we were legitimately getting a Guitar Hero Rock Band game like every couple of months, and spoiler alert, it wasn't really Rock Band. That by the time Rock Band 3 came out, everyone was like, oh my god, this thing's gonna be dead on arrival. And it wasn't, because they came back with a new gimmick, which was the keytar.
Yeah.
And that was cool. That was cool.
About the
they did the keyboard, they did the keytar keyboard mode, whatever it is, along with the pro guitar and drum charts.
Yeah.
All that stuff was really cool, and but that 3 definitely didn't take off like the others, even if it was like the best version of them. And then they came back a couple years later when PS4 and Xbox One were out, and we're like, hey, by the way, Rock Band 4. And the failure there was that not enough adapters were made for the legacy controllers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think people would have invested way more in it. Just, man, I look, it's funny, like I look at them exiting the Rock Band sphere, and they're kind of like, is this golden opportunity for Activision to step in now?
Yeah.
You remember back to that all hands that Bobby Kotick had the week that the purchase was finalized, and he said that like they were they were like working on what the future of Guitar Hero as a franchise would look like, because regardless of the oversaturation, that's still a very valuable IP to them if they can do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And now you figure you have the backing of like the most profitable corporation in the world. You can afford to pay for some of those song rights.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what would happen, but you would have to make it a platform, because when they tried to come back with Live, nobody wanted it.
Right.
Nobody wanted it. And part of that was due to the controller. The controller was awful. That's where
you had
to play it more like a real guitar, which really pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you could still do that as like a platform these days, but you would have it. You would have to, because Microsoft's so big on like, oh, all your shit follows you in these games. Like, yeah, you would have to support this for like the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, look at how long they've supported something like Sea of Thieves. Like 10 years, I don't think it's out of the question. It's just, would they pay for those music rights for that long?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and
my understanding is once they have the rights, they're pretty much there with some special exceptions.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays the way that especially like Spotify and Apple Music works, and subscription works in general, is you pretty much probably have them in perpetuity, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, there, like I said, there were some exceptions. Like Red Hot Chili Peppers is a really notable exception for Rock Band. You cannot buy any of their stuff anymore. If you previously bought it, you can still download it, but their rights, they took them away years ago.
Right.
So, which is kind of wild. You think they would want those? Like they had full albums on there. So, anyways, should we get to the actual like stuff that we need to talk about that's relevant, rather than me bemoaning the end of a 15-year-long DLC filled game?
I mean, Josh, if it's important to you, no pressure. But before we do that, are you playing anything?
I've been playing. I've been doing my New Game Plus run through a Persona. I'm close to wrapping that up. I'm at the end of regular Persona 5, so I've still got a little bit. I've still got all the Royale content, which I was gonna say a little bit to go. I've got like 30 more hours. I'm trying desperately to get through this before Persona 3 comes out in 11 days. And I don't think it's gonna happen. Spoiler alert.
Not with that attitude.
No, not with that attitude. Not with things to do. Not with a life. So that's about all I've been playing. I really haven't been playing too many games lately. Just kind of hanging out and chilling. Played a little bit of Call of Duty. Tried out the event they're doing with the boys. Just not a fan of it. I don't think you should have superpowers in Call of Duty, but whatever. That is a real thing that's happening.
I'm sure it is.
I'm over it. What have you been playing, Corey?
Well, funny you should ask, Josh. So I've been playing Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. It's very good. It is. I feel like this is definitely almost, and I say almost, Ubisoft's answer to Metroid Dread. I feel like it is that good. It is that high quality.
Yeah, that's what I've heard also.
The movement and the combat are both top tier. I think the art style really fits, and it looks really buttery smooth on Xbox Series X there, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up getting it there as a gift. So 120 frames a second, man, at 4K is no joke. I also played the first level of Wolfenstein: The New Order, which is something I've been wanting to go back to, and with Indiana Jones being announced, I'm like, guess I'll get refamiliar with Machine Games work. So
yeah,
I do plan on playing through that, because the last time I played it, Josh, the first one, I played about half of it on the Xbox 360, which was 4 discs, if you remember correctly.
Jesus.
And then since Nintendo Power Block was the only show I was doing at the time, I played through 2 on the Switch, which was an experience. So I do kind of want to go back and play that on the Xbox. And then I've been catching up on Destiny 2 stuff. I played with our friend Mitch. We played through some stuff that he hadn't previously played through, so we did that. But that's also been playing the game of packing my life away so we can move into a new house. And also,
when you move into your new house, will you play Unpacking as your first game?
I already got all the achievements. Can't play it again.
Great fucking game.
It was a great game. But I already have all the achievements, so no reason to go back, unfortunately. But also also packing for Disney. Dude, listen to this. Listen to this. We are packing our house. We are making a list to pack for Disney, so we don't pack it for our new house. We get the keys to our house on February 2nd, and we leave for Disney on February 4th. And then we are going to be all moved in to our new house by March 2nd.
So February is going to be busy for Corey.
Yes. Yep.
Jesus.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. But you know what else was fun, Josh? The Xbox Developer Direct was extremely fun.
It was fantastic.
It was amazing.
I think like last year, we all really liked the format of it. But if you go back and look at it, like what really got us excited out of it, I think we were just excited to like hear from the teams for once. Outside of like the stealth drop of Hi-Fi Rush, like Minecraft Legends did not get anybody excited.
Yeah.
Forza, it was more Forza. Redfall, I think a lot of us were already on the fence, and then especially how it ended up turning out when it came out. And what was the fifth game? Oh, that's right, the ESO expansion.
Ooh, great. And which they smartly, made their own video.
Decoupled from this.
Yes.
So they did that last year. They revealed it in the Direct, and then they still had its own presentation after.
Yeah.
That's just so wild to me. I'm glad that they didn't this year. Much stronger show, though. I think much stronger showing in terms of the games that were there. I think it was better produced this year. I wish they would just like... I want it to be a little bit less scripted when they do another one of these. Just a little bit less, because I mean, I think the production quality is really there. I would rather have one of these than like a State of Play personally, or like, because I think the State of Play and like Nintendo Direct format is really tired. I think it works for Nintendo just because it's like, well, you know,
it also works for Nintendo because they have no personalities anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Reggie and Iwata are gone. You know,
I mean,
Bowser's not really, the... No
I think that like a good part of it with Nintendo also is like so many of those teams are like are Japanese. I think that's probably like a pretty significant part of it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the best thing that they do about these developer directs is Phil Spencer's not there, Sarah Bond isn't there, Matt Booty isn't there. None of the personalities you've come to expect are there. And that's the smartest thing that they've done with this in a lot of ways, is they're letting the work speak for themselves, and it doesn't feel like the overlords are hanging over them.
Yeah.
I mean, Todd was there, right? But even Todd like spoke very little during the Indiana Jones presentation, which was I thought wonderful.
Yeah.
I guess let's just go in and go through it. Avowed.
Yeah. By the way, shout out whoever the graphic designer for the key art for Avowed is. They need a raise. They need a promotion. They need a few extra coins thrown their way. I'll say.
Man, that is some of the best key art I've seen in years.
My gosh, it's so fire, man.
It's so fucking good. Where's the dynamic background at
That's
Xbox?
about what I was gonna say. Where's that dynamic background?
They put out a whole like press kit for it earlier today. There was also a piece on Xbox Wire about the game because they did an extended demo that they released this afternoon.
Yeah.
I think some of the best news that we've heard about this game is that they're comparing it in size to like the zones in the Outer Worlds. And I know that there are a lot of people who are upset about that, who maybe just they want a full open world experience. I'm kind of happy that it's not that way. I think there's room for different types of games. The fact that they kept saying like build your own loadout, build your own loadout, build your own loadout, I was really like skeptical about till they started showing some of the different combos. I cannot wait to run around with double wands. I think double wands is going to be so fun to use.
Yeah.
They gave an example of like you can cast fire on the ground and then use a pull spell to yank enemies into the fire, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't know why there's some folks out there who are like, oh, I just don't know about the writing in this game, and that just like has convinced me that these people have never played an Obsidian game before.
I know. Just play any Obsidian game.
I don't
ever.
remember the last time Obsidian had bad writing in a game, like, and that's not me being, like a huge fanboy. Like, I mean, I've loved Obsidian since their inception, but I
saying,
truly don't remember it.
Go play Fallout New Vegas. Go play South Park: The Stick of Truth. Go play Pentiment.
Pillars of Eternity, which this game is a sequel to.
Yeah,
like both Pillars games, Knights of the Republic 2, and then like you got to remember that a lot of the people at Obsidian came from the old Interplay and
Black
Isle teams. So like Icewind Dale, the original Fallout, like
yeah,
it's there's a lot of really really good writers there. I like that Carrie Patel is directing this.
Yeah.
She's kind of not one of the newer faces at the studio, but definitely like got her start during Pillars, if I remember correctly, working with Josh Sawyer, and then got to take this project over. So that was cool. That was one of the best decisions that I think Obsidian has made around this game, was instilling her in charge of the game. Because there were a lot of rumors that she was going to take over doing Outer Worlds 2.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, because I believe she was helping with the DLCs on that, at some point
she did the murder mystery one.
That's right. At some point when that was done, probably around the time Avowed went through its reboot, they put her in charge of Avowed.
Yeah.
From like the very like weird timeline that I've tried to figure out over the years, that's like the best indicator that I can, or that she was pulling double duty, which is entirely possible. I don't understand. I've seen a complaint around the last couple of days about like, oh, I wish this looked like it did in its first teaser. That teaser one literally saw like one spell get conjured.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, that was a completely like CG teaser. That was never like intended to be what the game was going to look like, by the way.
Right.
Also, I think the move to make it more colorful is a really good idea, because we have enough dreary RPGs out there, especially medieval fantasy ones. I'm interested to see this. Like, I think the people who are like really down on this are people, and understandably, who have never played Pillars of Eternity. If you did, you would understand how rich this world is, and I'm very excited to see how it ties back to those games. I hope that some of the companions are going to be companions from those games. One of the things Carrie was teasing earlier today was that there's a lot of Easter eggs in this game relating to that universe, and that's one of her favorite things about making a game, is that like you can make Easter eggs and just stash them, because not everyone's going to find them.
Right.
And I think that's really cool in a world as rich as Eora to be able to do that. So totally new region that we've never seen in either Pillars game. We'll see. I'm hyped. I'm pumped for this.
I wonder what the Game Pass download surge is for those games, based on the popularity of Baldur's Gate and the newly found hype for this game is.
I mean, I think Pillars is going to have to be pushed a little bit more. I still think that's one of those games that, like, if you're into CRPGs, you've already played it. And I think that, like, the other thing with Baldur's Gate is Baldur's Gate had a budget, literally, not even joking, about 50 to 60 times more than the Pillars games combined did.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely think that plays a role. Like, that is very much what a CRPG usually looks like. Baldur's Gate is not. Baldur's Gate's an extreme outlier. And I think that Baldur's Gate also just benefits from like working directly with Wizards of the Coast. Pillars was basically what Obsidian did when they couldn't get the D&D license. So that's cool. I think Baldur's Gate 3 is a lot more welcoming to folks who have never played a game like that, because it is so heavily based on D&D 5e, whereas like 5e wasn't a thing when Pillars 1 came out. So I'm with you. I'm a little curious to see. I mainly want to see the PC numbers on that on PC Game Pass. It is a game that I think is better played on PC rather than console, but it is very console friendly.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's where I played both Pillars 1 and 2 was on Xbox a couple summers ago. But I think that the other thing with Avowed is they're also trying to like suck in that Bethesda crowd.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That like, hey, you've been waiting on Skyrim on the next Elder Scrolls and the follow up to Skyrim for so long. Come play our game, because that was how it was originally pitched to Microsoft when they bought Obsidian. Was, hey, this is going to be kind of our answer to Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
And they've admitted that like during the production process they changed their mind. Part of me thinks that that probably came after that initial teaser was released.
Yeah.
Because 2 months later is when the purchase of Bethesda was announced.
Yeah.
And I think Obsidian went, okay, we want to do our own thing and not be seen as like, oh, we're like the little brother still. Like, I think narratively they passed Bethesda a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look how many people regard New Vegas as the best Fallout, for example. I would have loved to have seen their take on Elder Scrolls, which we know now. Obsidian said not too long ago, somebody there did. It may have been Josh Sawyer. Said that, yeah, we fought to try and get Bethesda to let us make another Fallout or to make an Elder Scrolls, and they wouldn't let us. And of course, the internet theory now is, well, they probably didn't do that after they saw that people loved New Vegas so much. Like how dare you like this auxiliary studios game more than ours.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that that's any of it. I think it's just that Bethesda was cheap. I would like to see them get to take a stab at something like Elder Scrolls down the line, but if Avowed takes off, then there you go. That's their fantasy world to play in. I think a lot of us were really surprised when we found out that it was a follow up to Pillars, because Pillars 2 did so bad sales wise. That it was, we've told the story on this show before that Josh Sawyer is like, I'll never return to that world. Like, those two games were his baby. He had fought to make a game like that, and they just the first one did fine. The second one did not, and the second one is better in every single way, in my opinion. But he was like, people just don't want CRPGs now, and I think like seeing the success of Baldur's Gate probably does and doesn't want to make you go back to those games. Because now, like, he has said, like, I would love to make Pillars 3 if I had the budget and the time and the resources that Larian did. And that's not going to happen. Right. Larian is like 6 times as big as Obsidian, by the way. So, right. And had Wizards of the Coast backing them financially. So, if Phil walked in there, if Phil determined that game could be profitable, I'm sure he would back it. But I think they know better than to play their bets here. I think Avowed is definitely the smarter play. Mm-hmm. There's not that says we can't get another Pillars, but it would be on a very small budget compared to Baldur's Gate. And at that point, if you do put it out, it's always going to be compared to that, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I think the questing sounds interesting. I need to see a little bit more. I want to see some unscripted gameplay. It was very like, hey, here's how we progress through the quest, and I don't like seeing demos like that. I'm looking forward to whatever sizzle trailer they show at the summer showcase. And then release date, fall 2024. It's coming this fall. That is the one that they gave us the release window for it. It is fall.
I think it's worth noting that everything in this showcase was slated for this year.
Everything is slated for this year. I think this is probably the September game.
Yeah.
I would say mid-September. I would have said they were targeting that Labor Day weekend, but I don't think they are, because that's when Stalker is supposed to come out.
Yeah.
And they've promoted that game so much that they don't want to run over it.
Man, this year lining up for Xbox is so crazy.
It's so good. And this is like the first drop in the bucket, right? Because Corey, you know what we got to talk about next? We got to talk about the big kahuna.
Hellblade? You're talking about Hellblade?
We got to talk about Hellblade.
Yeah, dude.
What can be said about Hellblade that we haven't already said?
Here's what I'm excited they let off with. This is a narrative-driven, shorter experience, was the quote they used at the beginning. And I'm like, thank you. This is not going to be your answer to Horizon or God of War. This is going to be just a very high production version of the first one. And that is fantastic to me. 8 to 10 hours, story driven, beautiful looking. The combat looks a little bit different, which I'm very excited for. It looks more aggressive, which excites me. Like, I don't have enough good things to say about this game. $49.99 if you're going to buy it instead of Game Pass, right? I know a lot of people are kind of like no physical for this, and you know that seems to be the way that Xbox may be moving in the future. But like, this game looks incredible. It looks amazing.
Yeah. This is probably the best looking game that I've ever seen on a console.
Yeah, ever.
I feel like I need to specify console because just Jesus Christ, Cyberpunk on a full out rig is incredible. This looks every bit to be an expansion over what we saw in the first game. Expanded combat. I do like that they came out and were very clear. Not during the presentation necessarily, but right afterwards, and we're like, "This is an 8 to 10 hour game.
Mm-hmm.
This is an 8 to 10 hour game. This is $50, which I was really thankful to see. It's not a full $70 title.
Mm-hmm.
It's a $50 title. The no physical isn't like super weird to me because it does seem like Xbox is going to be the first one to go full digital.
Yeah.
I mean,
I also
this
want
is
to point
on
out
the
the
heels
first
of
one.
like. Go ahead.
I was just going to point out on that the first one didn't get a physical release until 2 years later.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a little bit different with the first one because it was a team of 20 people,
right,
and they didn't have a real publisher for it.
right. I'm just saying I think
Yeah,
it's worth noting at least that.
it definitely is. I think that there are some folks who are acting like this is the absolute end of the world, that Hellblade is not getting a physical version. I wouldn't be shocked to see Xbox decide to do like a special physical version through like the Xbox shop.
Yeah,
Do
or
like a
even
special
someone like
collector's
limited
edition.
run.
Yeah, I mean, limited run and Xbox have a very weird relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I Microsoft has the resources to just do it themselves.
Yeah.
With it being a first party game, you should just do it yourself, frankly. But we've said for a while we think that's how physical games are going to be going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Baldur's Gate is a purely digital release. It's getting a limited physical run through Larian themselves.
Yeah.
But I do think like it is. I understand the concern because Alan Wake did this also, but I don't. I don't know what to tell you. Like, do you just not buy to the people freaking out? Do you not play games on Steam? Like that would be my first question. Do you not play games on PC? Because I can't remember the last time I saw a PC game on disc.
Right. I mean, even
Like,
the World of Warcraft physical collector's editions don't come with discs, right? I mean, those
to
just
my
come with the
knowledge, they do
code.
not.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think it's a completely silly thing that's going on. I'm not thrilled. I just think it's really dumb and takes away from an otherwise really cool reveal. And I think that there were some people running around beating the drum of, oh, this happens every time Xbox has a great show, this happens. They shoot themselves in the foot. And I'm like, this is an extremely vocal minority.
Yeah.
That is making a ruckus about this, like 3/4 of whom I'm pretty sure were never going to play this game.
Right.
So I'm not too worried about it. Like, okay, well, fine, whatever. Like, just whatever, just go away. Like, it's a little hard to want to do physical versions when stores like Walmart flat out have said they're going to stop selling Xbox games physically.
Yeah.
And like my Target basically stopped doing it last year. They have 2 rows of Xbox stuff and they just never have them stocked. So it doesn't phase me anymore. Like Best Buy and GameStop are the only places I can go to buy physical games anymore for Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
And even like Best Buy is not like an incredible selection these days.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean, I was in Best Buy the other day, and there was like half an aisle dedicated to Xbox, and half of it was controllers and consoles. So
yeah.
But anyways, Ninja Theory is doing an incredible job, it seems, with this. This is my most anticipated game, I think, for the year.
Yeah, I won't say it's my most anticipated of the year, but it's probably the only game as of right now, other than Rebirth, that you can look at and say, yeah, this is probably going to be in the game of the year conversation. Now, granted, we don't know a lot of what this fall is going to hold. A lot of companies and a lot of studios are starting to hold their cards closer to their vest and reveal things closer to launch. But I think that Hellblade is probably the first game that you look at and you're like, yeah, this Rebirth, and I mean, Persona 3 Reload will probably be in that Resident Evil 4 slot this year of like the remake that everyone's like, oh shit, this like elevates the remake game. But in terms of like an original game, this is definitely the one that's going to take off. This is the moment that a lot of Xbox fans have been waiting for, that a lot of gamers in general, I think, have been waiting for. And I keep seeing folks harp on combat. If you played the first Hellblade, you know there's not a lot of combat in this game. That's not what this game is.
It's coming in experimental puzzles and the sound design.
Yeah, I hate people who are like, oh, well, this is, people have been saying this is going to be like Xbox's God of War. Like, yeah, in terms of like a narrative, emotional story, sure. Not in terms of combat.
And a quarter of the length.
Yeah, and like a quarter of the length. I'm really excited for this. I want to play this. I'm very thankful that this is a shorter game because this comes out 2 weeks before the final shape. Yeah. So I've got 2 weeks to get this done when it comes out. And as of right now, May is totally open outside of this game.
Yeah.
May 21st.
May 21st.
May 21st.
Later than I thought, but still probably a good time to drop that.
Yeah, later than I thought by about a month. I had this pegged for early to mid-April. So.
Yeah. So, what's next? Visions of Mana from Square Enix?
This was the surprise.
Yeah.
This also confirms that these are no longer just for first-party games.
Yeah.
I'm a little interested that they chose to do this versus Stalker.
I think they chose this to show that they can and will have a Japanese presence on the Xbox.
Oh, I'm sure that's what it is. And there was a webpage erroneously uploaded to Xbox's site yesterday or today, I don't remember which day, that stated that Visions of Mana is a day one Game Pass game.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which, I mean, I think a lot of us suspected that when it showed up at a first party show. But yeah, the two things I would have been a little bit more like, oh, this would have made a bit more sense to me is if Final Fantasy 14 would have been there, or if, or even like just ending the Square Enix portion with, hey, we're dropping the Final Fantasy 14 beta earlier than we told you, or if it had been Stalker,
right.
I suspect that with Stalker coming in September, though, they're going to have a pretty big presence with it at their showcase this summer. Visions of Mana looks great, though. This looks great. This is the first time a Mana game has ever come to Xbox.
Yeah.
That was wild. I was not aware of that. And then thinking back, I was like, oh, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah. You think they'll end up bringing the rest of them over, like that collection, and then the whatever one came to Switch and PlayStation, the Trials of Mana, you think, the remake at some point if this game does well enough?
I mean, possibly. I can't imagine it costs you like anything to port those over.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to wait and see what the player engagement is on this one first, especially if it comes to Game Pass. They're going to see what the player engagement is before putting forth the effort, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, Visions of Mana looks great. We've got a couple friends who are really excited about this game. I had it described to me as it's Dragon Quest, but fun. So I thought that was a pretty funny way to describe it from someone who plays a lot of JRPGs, describing it to me. So I mean, I'll probably try this out. It would have to come to a subscription service or be heavily discounted, though. And that's not like speaking to the quality of the game. It's like purely a budget thing at this point. But yeah, I don't know if I have it in me to play a third or a fourth 100-hour Japanese RPG this year.
Sure you do.
I don't know if I do. I got Persona, Final Fantasy, and then this fall was Metaphor. So... Yeah. I don't know if I have it in me to play through Visions of Mana. Squeeze it in between.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Squeeze it in between. Unbelievable. This next one, I think Ara looks pretty rad.
Yeah, Aura looks
I
cool.
probably won't play this at all. It's a 4X game that doesn't really appeal to me. But there's a lot of Civilization fans who are like salivating over this right now.
Yeah, it looks
Um,
cool. I
it
gotta
looks
give it to
way
them.
more in depth than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, they're what do they call it? Their simulated world or whatever it was called. I totally forget what they called it, but the way they like kind of randomly generate like a planet Earth that you can then take over is really cool. Like that
Yeah,
concept seems really cool. Their prestige system that they kind of describe seems really cool. Uh, I like that they are allowing players to really get deep into their systems and play how they want to play, because some strategy games say that, but then they're like, oh well, we clearly want you to play like this, and it seems like they're not doing that, and that's super cool. So
yeah, it seems like they're doing some stuff that 4X games don't usually do. Um, Again, the people who are really into this game seem to, or who are like into this style of game, are like really into this.
mhm.
I think the last thing you had anything kind of comparable was probably Age of Empires 4.
Yeah.
It is a pretty niche genre, but it's being developed by Oxide, which is an outside studio. I'm interested to see what the result is. Anybody who's expecting this to be like a million seller is just out of their minds. This is a game that will have a pretty big audience on Steam, though. I think.
Hmm.
Like if you're into this kind of game, you're probably picking this up.
Yeah, especially if there's not like a Civ release anytime in the next year or so. Like,
Yeah, this is supposed to be another one of those fall games. I expect this to be like late summer.
yeah.
I don't think they actually gave us a launch window, did they? They said 2024.
Yeah, they said 2024. They said, I think they just said 2024 on it.
I mean, this is one of those, like, I don't think you have to worry about like if you release it like within like a week or two of something like COD or Indiana Jones or something. You can just kind of like release this because the audience that it's there for is going to play it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
that's cool. Like, good on you. But the thing that we're really here to talk about, Corey, Indiana
Uh,
Jones.
yeah, man. Indiana Jones. And the Great Circle, Josh. What a name.
It is an Indiana Jones ass name.
Yes, it really is reminiscent to Temple of Doom or Dial of Destiny.
Dial of Destiny.
Man, what a film. Top tier.
I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Number 3 on my list of Indiana Jones rankings.
Yep, pretty easily.
So, yeah, man. I mean, we got Harrison Ford's likeness. We have Troy Baker playing Indy. Marcus Brody shows up in the trailer.
Tony Todd shows up.
Yeah.
This
Incredible.
is going to be really really cool. I'm here for it. They made it canonical to the movies too, which is a big deal to me.
Yeah.
It takes place roughly a year after Raiders,
which is incredible.
Can we talk about the Indiana Jones likeness? That it clearly looks like they mapped Harrison Ford's face into this game.
I wonder. So we kind of talked about this a little bit on Tower Casuals, but I wonder if this was written into Harrison Ford's contract with Dial of Destiny and said, "Hey, we're making a video game. You are Indiana Jones. Whatever we do with the young Indy likeness, we are putting that into the video game, and people will go nuts." And he's like,
I
yeah,
would love that.
I don't, whips and let's do it. I'm clearly not playing Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones. Oh man.
Yeah, I think that and I mean when we watched the trailer, I think all of us had the same reaction, like, shit, is that actually Harrison Ford's voice? It's Troy Baker, but
Yeah.
he sounds astoundingly like Harrison Ford.
Yeah. Good on him, man. I mean,
Good on that cannot have been easy, and like I can only imagine the pressure of stepping into Harrison Ford's shoes for this.
right. There are
But
so many
man,
good scenes in this trailer too, with Troy Baker acting. Like
yeah,
the scene at the very end when the guy drops the vase and he's like, "Do you realize how old that was?" And like it sounds just like him with the
it
same.
was classic Indy.
Yeah, it was the same inflections and the same like pauses, and It's incredible how
I
good
do
these things
like
are.
how this game is going to swap between the first and third person aspects.
Yeah.
That whenever you're climbing or on a zip line, it's going to zoom out the third person. I
Hmm.
think that's the right way to do this type of game.
Yeah.
But also like this game's clearly not going to lack for action. Like, make no mistake, he may not be running around with like an AK-47 like Nathan Drake,
Right.
but my man like pull throws hammers. He's pulling people off bridges with whips. He's jumping off of planes. He's punching Nazis in the face. I love that they had a whole montage, and every time that it hits the beat in the main Indiana Jones theme, it's another guy getting punched.
Hmm.
That was such a great cut. Uh, Him explaining what the Great Circle is, like they explain it straight up in the trailer. You're gonna go to play. You start out at Marshall College. Like, this is an Indiana Jones story.
Yeah.
You start out at Marshall College, you go to the Vatican, you end up in you go to the Himalayas, you go to South America. Like, this is a true globe-trotting adventure. And
Yeah.
I cannot wait to play this game. And on top of that, Indy's not the only lead.
I know the new character Gina, the investigative reporter, who has some sort of interest in this as well, right? That's
Yeah, I'm very interested. They have straight up clamped down and they're like, we are not talking about her.
hmm.
So I think that's really cool. I think that I want to see more of this game so badly.
You think?
But we got like I instead of just watching the footage we got and like the behind the scenes and stuff, I watched the actual trailer last night. My girlfriend hadn't seen it yet, so I showed it to her, and I was just like, I had like this stupid grin on my face for the whole like 3.5 minutes. The
Mm.
key art looks like classic Indiana Jones
Oh, it's so
artwork.
good, man. It's so
It's
good.
so good. This is a game that I hope and pray gets a physical release.
Yeah. Oh
Because
yeah.
it's funny, like I just was like, oh, I don't give a shit about physical release. No, give me
Look,
this one physically. I need this on my shelf. I need a collector's edition right now.
Josh, there are two franchises in this world that I absolutely love and care about so much that I will buy collector's things for it. One is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the other is Indiana Jones. If there is some sort of collector's edition for this, you better believe I will be there minute one to pre-order that sucker. So I hope it's a globe with a circle around it.
Yeah, they I mean, Bethesda does pretty decent collector's editions usually, so I'm curious to see what they do for the Indiana Jones one.
Hmm.
I think the biggest reveal for me, like, not, and a lot of people be like, "Oh, well, this was never in doubt." The confirmation that it is coming to Game Pass,
Hmm.
because I had gotten real skeptical if some of these licensed games were going to be able to come.
Hmm.
I would love to know how much Microsoft had to ultimately pay to get this to Game Pass.
Hmm.
I would love to know. I'd love to know how much they had to pay for this and how much they're going to have to pay for Blade. But I think it's like our friend Ray was pointing this out to me. He was like, "Well, those are kind of like B tier compared to like Spider Man and Star Wars
Hmm.
for their respective for like Marvel and Lucasfilm, respectfully." So he's
Sure.
like, "It probably doesn't cost you nearly as much either." And it's clear that like Microsoft has a good relationship with Disney games
Hmm.
because Dreamlight Valley, the Monkey Island and Pirates expansions for Sea of Thieves,
Hmm.
among other things. So I am curious about that. I want to
Credit
know
to
how
Disney
long.
too for getting the right teams involved in the right IP, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm really glad that this is Machine Gate. The only other team that I truly would have loved to have seen Arcane do Indiana Jones. I can't lie. As much as I like Machine Games, I feel like Arcane would have done this just masterfully.
Yeah. Well, they're doing
In
Blade,
terms,
so I can't complain too much, right?
they're doing Blade. I definitely can't be upset about that. Man, I just I love everything about this. This game looks so cool. Um, and eagle-eyed fans spotted something on a whiteboard, and I had to go back and watch it for myself to make sure I wasn't getting punked. And it is in fact there on the whiteboard in the office. If it's a blink and you miss it moment,
Hmm.
you can clearly see the Quake symbol and what appears to be the words Quake 6 above
Yeah.
that symbol.
Quake 6 is there. Yeah. It's very clearly
Um,
there. And I don't know how people missed it the first time around.
I think we
Um,
were just like so enamored with what was going on. Like, I know I wasn't paying attention to the whiteboard at all.
yeah. Yeah,
but
it's in our rundown of the show too to talk about that at some point. I mean, I guess we could talk about it now, but that's
no,
interesting.
let's finish Indy. I completely missed it in our rundown.
That's fair.
Yeah, God, dude, Indy, it looks so good. Indiana Jones, who historically has not had a great run of video games,
Yeah.
like Emperor's Tomb and Lego Indiana Jones are your two best games.
Yeah. And people talk very highly of the point and click adventure Fate of Atlantis from the early 90s.
Jesus.
Dude, I love that the game is sort of stylized. And it almost looks like the Wolfenstein key art style.
Yeah.
Right? Like when he's in the sand and like I forget what the villain's name is. I wrote it down somewhere. But he's like they're sitting there and like it's very clearly stylized, but also looks really good. It's so clear and so clean. So good.
Yeah, this is going to be a really special game. I when the whole presentation was over, I was in a Discord call with our buddy Ray, and I was like, "Do Machine Games just like maybe reveal a Black Horse candidate or a Dark Horse candidate, not Black Horse, Dark Horse candidate for Game of the Year?" And he's like, "It's certainly possible." I don't. It is a licensed game, so I don't really expect it to get like incredible awards attention. But it is really telling when they just say it's coming in 2024. There were insiders hinting that this game is way closer than we think it is. I was wondering if this could be like an August or September release also, because I think they want to keep it out of like the full fall releases.
Yeah.
Also knowing that they're going to have a Call of Duty on the way and presumably another Forza Horizon.
Well, I mean,
think
you
they
got to
want to
think about
keep
that fall. Like you said, Forza Horizon 6 is probably coming. Call of Duty and then Vessel of Hatred is coming out at some point.
Vessel of Hatred is, yeah, and I mean all three of those like go just beyond their normal reach for a genre.
Yeah, this would be an August or September release.
Yeah, I think they want to keep this and Avowed away from those as much as possible. So, I mean, if you come out of, and on top of that, like we don't know when Flight Sim and Towerborn are being targeted, but it's almost certainly second half of the year for both.
Yeah,
you conceivably could have a major release every month for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Because I've grown more and more convinced that Towerborn is going to be available on Summer Showcase Day. It not being here is just like my confirmation. Mm-hmm. That's my confirmation bias. Drop Flight Sim and Ara, you can drop whenever. Like, okay. Avowed, Indy, Forza, Vessel of Hatred is this fall. We know that. That's probably an October release. I'd be surprised if they didn't line it up with Halloween. And then COD in November. Like, you've got a major release every single month at that point. That's wild. And that's not counting anything else that we would hear about at showcase time. So, or any of their partnerships, they're going to push Stalker. And they're going to push some of their other partnerships, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, Stalker, and then we kind of talked about the South of Midnight might be further along than we thought it was. Like,
yeah, us getting the confirmation that Indy is coming this fall makes me a little bit more skeptical on South of Midnight being that far along.
Yeah,
simply because like that's something I wouldn't want to send out to die.
Right.
Especially like because you're gonna have to get it out before like Keighley cuts off his nominations, right?
Yeah.
Because that's when like the general public like doesn't give a shit about anything beyond that.
Right.
So you have to have it out before mid-November, and I just don't know where you slide that in at. If everything does hit this year, I don't know where you put that game out without it getting steamrolled.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, if you don't want it to get steamrolled too, like you could definitely hold it the way that Nintendo holds games, right? Because you can definitely afford that.
Yeah.
Push it into maybe like January of 2025 or January or April or somewhere in that area. So definitely do that.
Yeah, I think that man, just looking at the overall year, like now that we have Indy on the slate, if these games all hit, this is Xbox's best year probably ever. I would have liked to have seen some more love here in Q1 and Q2.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a really big missed opportunity to have some stuff out, even some expansions for your games. I mean, that was a pretty big missed opportunity. But like we've been saying for so long, the games are on the way. The games are here. They're here.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can safely say the games are here.
They are in fact here.
We have to make it to May, and May is not that far away. Believe it or not, it may seem like it is. That is it. This game is exactly 4 months away right now.
Right. Well,
Hellblade.
I mean, next
when I
week's
say this
February,
game,
so...
Hellblade is 4 months away.
Yeah.
That is roughly 120 days out. Really, it's probably the next it's probably the biggest release after Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah.
Like Dragon's Dogma 2 is probably the like biggest AAA game. Not that it's bigger than Final Fantasy, but it's probably like between that and Hellblade, which is a 2 month gap, there is nothing. There's absolutely nothing. This is a digital release. I almost wonder if they could move it up a little, but I don't think they will. Games aren't like movies. They're not going to go moving up the release date.
Right.
I would be really shocked. I think they're really hoping that like something like Replaced maybe is able to come out and like be a big Game Pass draw for them. I know Aiden Chronicle, they have marketing for that. That comes out in April. This just looks like an absolute, once you get to May, this looks like it's just going to be banger after banger. Assuming everything can actually land. And then I think the train it's left the station. It's not stopping. When you look at, we talked last episode about the roadmap and what everything looks like from each of these studios, and 2025 like is going to be wild.
Yeah.
I think the biggest question after this year is you turn the attention to, are they really going to launch their new console in 2026, or are they going to try to hold out until 27 or 28? That really becomes the question.
Right.
Otherwise, you could have a 2-year run of being the most powerful home console on the market.
Yeah.
You know, kind of go like Nintendo and do away with traditional generations, which I think we've all felt are like increasingly disappearing.
Yeah. So. Especially, I mean, I think they've all but disappeared if Nintendo does what we think it's going to be and just does an iterative console on the Switch, right? I mean, that would be ideal. And then, I mean, essentially the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 are essentially the same store and ecosystem, right? And then the Xbox very clearly is the same as the last gen, right? In terms of user interface and the way the console works and everything, right? So
yeah, I'd be a little surprised at this point if they did commit to releasing a console in 2026. I'd be a little surprised. I think 27 is the more likely option. But that basically all but confirms that Kojima and Blade, that Kojima's game and Blade will probably be launch titles for the next console. Like that's how far out we're revealing things now.
Yeah.
So yeah, exciting times, man. This looks like it's going to be an awesome year. Of the big three, like, I mean, obviously, like we've got Switch 2 like written in pen. We think it's going to be like that September window.
Yeah, that seems to be what Game Shark thinks.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if it didn't launch in September or October at this point. I think the traditional Nintendo releasing consoles in November is a no-go anymore. They have realized they can drop a console anytime they want and it will sell out immediately.
Yeah.
The Switch launching on March 1st is all you had to know to realize that. But we probably don't see anything on that until summer.
Yeah, I know.
It's kind of hard for me to get stoked about the lineup for the Switch this year. Not that I'm not excited about the games. I mean,
you mean you're not excited for Princess Peach Showtime? Or
I'm not.
A ton of remakes?
I actually am really excited that another Code just came out. That Trace Memory, for those of you who remember it from the DS days. I love those games. I don't love them enough to spend $50 on the collection though. Paper Mario was coming out.
$60.
Oh god, that's even worse. Paper Mario was supposed to come out this summer. I am excited. Thousand Year Door is one of my favorite games on the GameCube. But again, I don't know if I want to spend $50-$60 on this game. Especially knowing that a new console is on the way too.
Yeah.
I would expect that whenever Switch 2 does come out, and I think that's why you haven't gotten a lot of release dates for like past Hellblade yet, is because everybody's trying to figure out what Nintendo is doing and when they're going to launch. Because
and what games are coming to that console.
They're going to clear the runway.
because
Everybody,
a new 3D Mario game is launching.
3D Mario and Metroid Prime 4 are two extremely safe bets to be launch titles.
Yeah.
And like Metroid, in terms of sales, not a concern, right? Not a concern.
No,
Critically,
but a
yes,
hardcore Nintendo fan's fantasy, right? I mean, that's
right,
when you would launch that. So
right, because you want something that like the Mario game is the one that's going to get the kids to buy it. Metroid is the one that's going to get all the techies to go buy it.
yeah.
So
I mean, judging by how good Metroid Prime Remastered looked on the Switch, I mean, Metroid Prime 4 is going to be in Nintendo's case, a technical powerhouse. So
yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens there, because that's really going to affect when things launch this fall. And I do think that that's part of the reason why you're not getting concrete dates on Avowed or Indie yet is Microsoft is playing the waiting game, seeing how long they can wait.
yeah.
But it's funny because they're almost certainly going to have to announce dates at Summer Showcase, and then Nintendo's going to announce the Switch 2 date like 3 days later.
Yeah.
So that is the funniest part of all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder man, Nintendo is an interesting this console might be the most interesting console they've ever released after a popular console because we don't know what it is, right? Like
We know how up and down Nintendo is when they try to follow up something that was like incredible. So
yeah, but also, I mean, not that I want to spend a lot of time on Nintendo, but just real
no,
quick, their current leadership is very conservative, and I mean that in a financial way. I mean that in a let's take risks where we can and not take risks where we don't have to. I think you're going to see a very similar type of console that's just more powerful, in my opinion.
probably.
Based on the leadership that's there now. If
I
this was a
yeah.
Wata, I mean, the next console could like wipe your ass and pick your nose, and I don't know anything but be something that hardcore video game players want to play.
Right.
But I think this leadership team sees lightning in a bottle with the Switch, and they're going to try to make it strike twice, however they can, even if that just means, hey, everything works. Your Pro controllers work, your Joy-Cons work, the device is stronger. We'll have new accessories, of course, but yeah, that's what I see from it.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not let myself get too hyped until we see the specs on this and until we see when it's actually coming out.
Yeah.
But I do think it's pretty clear that we need a revised hardware. Because I mean, playing Tears of the Kingdom handheld was a catastrophe.
Yeah, I mean, going from Prince of
God.
Persia to Tears of the Kingdom, like 120 frames, 4K to Tears of the Kingdom on the TV at like sub 30 and maybe 900.
And that's on the TV when you've got more power coming to it.
I know.
Like handheld, that thing was chugging. It was getting hot. And I have an OLED. So
I know, I do too.
I bought the Tears of the Kingdom OLED for it. But yeah, I found it funny. I bought it for that, and like I have put maybe like 60 hours in on the OLED.
Yeah.
Beautiful console though. What do we got next on the docket, Corey? What do we got here?
Any final thoughts on the showcase before we move on?
Nope, it's great. Do these more. I'd love to see 2 of these a year. Do one at the beginning of the year, and then do one in place of a Gamescom show, because Gamescom, your shows for that suck. Like, I need Xbox to understand the shows you do for Gamescom suck.
Yeah,
they are bad.
Do more developer directs, please.
Do another developer direct. You could even do a live developer direct. That would be cool.
Yeah,
I'd be fine with that. Do something kind of like the Showcase Extended that you do during Summer Showcase Week. Anything but what you traditionally do at Gamescom, because it sucks.
Yeah. Well, Josh, let's talk about the massive hit that is Pow World. It seems to be
Jesus Christ,
an incredibly popular video game. I saw that you muted the word Pow World on
Twitter. I can't take the discourse. It's been 5 days and I can't take it anymore. I can't take it. I can't take the people who are rallying to its defense. I can't take the people who are screaming about it's copying Pokemon, people who are screaming about AI. To be fair, the AI concerns are absolutely founded. But the people who are screaming that it's copying Pokemon, like, go touch some fucking grass. There's what, like 2,000 something Pokemon now. It's gonna be a little bit hard not to copy those designs.
Yeah. Also, somebody already made a Pokemon mod for it. So
I heard about that. I'm so over it. Like, Pal World was announced like 3 years ago too. Like, you've had 3 years to be upset about this, and you only care now.
you're right.
It's a lot of this for that I've seen. The AI stuff, totally valid. I am absolutely concerned about that. I do think that, like, again, like, Craftopia has been out for a few years though, and like nobody has ever complained about how the opening of that looks almost exactly like Breath of the Wild. Um, they have another game coming that apparently looks very similar to Hollow Knight, but I don't know how you don't make a game that's a Metroidvania look like other Metroidvanias at this point. But
yeah,
I think that the CEO has made some concerning comments about the use of AI in game development. But most of the people I'm seeing are freaking out are like hardcore Nintendo fans who are just like, it's copying Pokemon, they need to issue cease and desist. Equally as annoying are the people who are saying this is exactly what Game Freak needs to be taking notes off of. Like, no, shut the fuck up. No, it's not.
is it,
Dude? I'm so like, listen, the last few Pokemon games have sucked ass, but they're not like really Pal World. Really, I am like shocked that this game is doing the numbers it's doing. I'm absolutely floored. And the Xbox version is so much worse than the Steam version.
Is it?
Yeah, so
The
on
Steam
Steam,
version
you
looks
can have a
bad.
whole server. You can have 32 people playing at once. On Xbox, you can only have like 4 people.
No.
They're super behind on the on patches and on features, and they've said it's because even in game preview on Xbox, they have to go through a cert process, and you don't have to do that on Steam.
Yeah.
They can just push out features on Steam. So yeah, it's wild. This is a game that, like, again, kind of disproves that, hey, just because it came to Game Pass doesn't mean it can't sell insanely, extremely well. It's already sold 5 million copies, and it's had, like, the third highest peak of any game ever on Steam.
Yeah.
Wild. Absolutely wild to me. It's one of only, like, 8 games to ever have over 1 million concurrent players.
Yeah. That's
Just
crazy.
disgusting.
That's nuts.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
But hey, more power to you. If you're into this, a lot of my friends are into this game right now. I personally am not partaking, but I get it.
Yeah. Good. If you guys are enjoying it, have fun with it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, if you're enjoying it, more power to you. I'm happy that you're enjoying it. It is not for me.
Yeah.
Beyond like the AI concerns and everything, games that emphasize base building are just not my jam.
Mm-hmm.
So,
You know what is your jam though, Josh? Halo
what's
Infinite
my jam?
multiplayer.
God, I do love Halo Infinite multiplayer.
Halo Infinite is changing its engagement model and adding new features in the January update, including the removal of seasons and adding, quote, operations, which was a term that Gears made famous, I think, in terms of their content rollouts. What do you think of this, Josh? 4 to 6 week operations.
I'm of a couple of different thoughts on this. One, I think this allows them to push features out just like whenever they're ready, which they've basically indicated. It allows them to push features when they're ready and they don't have to hold them for months for seasons. I don't know. To me, this also could kind of indicate that I don't think they're winding down service on Infinite, but they did note in the post and the video that announced this that they are actively working on what comes next.
Yeah.
Like, they are hiring for it. They are working on it. We know Certain Affinity is taking over the multiplayer for the franchise. That makes me hopeful that maybe 343 will work on something other than just Halo also. Maybe they'll have 2 projects going. There was that rumor going around, which is unsubstantiated as of right now, that they are helping with Indiana Jones. Until I see the actual credits for that fucking game, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, 343 helped with it. Like, id and Arcane totally believe that. I am not believing for a second that 343 helped with it until I see some actual like credits for that game.
Yeah. No offense to them, but maybe they should help themselves first before they start helping other people. the
I
way
mean, I
that.
think that would be part of it, though. Like, Phil has kind of shown an indication to want to get away from certain studios only making specific franchises. Like, unless you're Turn 10, I
Yeah,
think that you're going to see that more. Like, we know the Coalition's working on a non-Gears game still. They are still working on that. We have had
yeah,
multiple people come out and say that are trustworthy in the Xbox community and say that that is still being worked
good. I mean,
on.
look, I understand that Gears is important, but
Mhm.
I think as someone who pays a lot of attention to the Gears community in particular, a lot of people, there are two things everybody wants. Everybody wants a Marcus Phoenix style or a Master Chief style Marcus Phoenix collection
Yeah.
for 1, 2, 3 in Judgment, and everybody wants 6 to be the end of the franchise for a while.
Yeah.
Those are the
I
two
think a
things.
lot of Xbox fans want this to be the end for a while.
Yeah, but I mean, as Gears fans, I mean, I think I think fans of any franchise sometimes want the franchise to keep going well past its prime, right?
Yeah.
And I think Gears 5 was an absolute high note for the franchise by far, probably since Gears 2,
Yeah,
in my
I would
opinion.
agree with that.
And I think people want the series to go out on a high note at this point. And
They're making the lore is getting so convoluted at this point that you kind of need it to end.
yeah, that's what I'm saying is like Kate's story and her involvement in the story.
It's
Like I'm not going
yeah,
to spoil
her
it.
her story is bordering on ridiculous right now.
Yeah, and
Um
I and they need to figure that out
yeah.
and wrap it up. You know, I love Gears. I would play a Gears game every 2 years if you put one out that was interesting and fun. But like from a story standpoint, like they need to wrap this up.
We're pretty dry.
Yeah, put a bow on it. Send Kate
It's
and teammate that lived out to pasture.
that's a weird
Let
one. I don't know how you're going to decide the canonical ending there,
I
but
mean, yeah, and let Marcus grow his tomatoes. That's all I have to say.
I'm at a point where like Gears to me always felt like it had an expiration date as opposed to Halo, which like those are adventures that span the galaxy.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of fans argue that like Master Chief's story should have been done with 3 and you and I both love 4. You and I both really love
Oh yeah.
4. I would have even been fine with ending it at 4 personally.
Yeah.
5 was bad, but I think Infinite really like Infinite was a classic Master Chief story.
Yeah.
That was
Have you? By the way, speaking of 5, have you
mhm.
seen the revisionist history on 5 going around lately? How people are saying 5 is actually really good and nobody understands it.
I have, which is fucking wild.
I'm like, oh my god, did you even play 5?
I
Like,
agree that well, when I've seen that about the multiplayer, I absolutely agree. I do think like from a competitive standpoint, it is certain like it's the most esport heavy Halo that we've ever had, but
hmm
that also contributed to people like casuals not wanting to play Halo 5 multiplayer.
yeah,
Even modes like Fiesta were just completely loaded up with like, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
assholes.
I want to
So,
I want to say Halo 5 was really fun to play and shooting the weapons was really fun and the movement was
yep,
great.
yep,
The reason why Halo fans play Halo for the most part, besides like good multiplayer, is the story,
yep.
and the story was trash.
The story is absolute trash. It is far and away the worst Halo game in terms of
Yeah,
story.
yeah,
Which should not be happening when you've been a franchise for 14 years, but that's where we are. I'd be welcome to more side stories like
hmm
ODST or Reach. I'd
yeah,
be open to more games like that. In fact, if they just like taken the concept of Halo 5, like what they did, and they had just not called it Halo 5, I think a lot of
hmm
us would have been like, "Oh, this is a better game."
yeah. That
This
was
is
the
like
conversation.
okay, so the spinoff didn't stick the landing.
Halo, like called it Halo Lock or something like that.
Yeah,
Halo
something along those
Osiris or something.
lines. Yeah, Halo Cyrus would be probably the thing, but and I don't think any of us would have blinked. We would have been like, "Oh, okay, so that wasn't that good."
Yeah,
You know, good, not great,
yeah,
essentially. And it's funny because like I've pointed this out, like even the worst Halo game is still better than most first-person shooters.
hmm
But I think a lot of us are at the same point with Halo. Like, okay, the multiplayer for Halo endures a lot more. No offense, than Gears. I think there's a lot more variety, the custom games browser, the esport nature of it, etc. um Infinite was supposed to be your forever Halo game, and if you're already kind of moving on from that, that's I don't think that's concerning, but I do think that's reading the room.
hmm
that just like from a comp standpoint, people aren't happy with it. It's finally to a place where like casuals are happy with it, but the damage has long been done.
Yeah.
Like your efforts should be on, yeah, supporting this, but also starting to work on the next Halo game. One, to tell the story that comes after Infinite, but two, to launch you have to launch a feature complete multiplayer next time. There is no excuse. If you
Right.
do this again, aka you launch without Forge, I don't know, like they launched without Team Slayer being a core gameplay mode. Like what the
I know.
fuck? You
I know.
launched with like 7 multiplayer maps. You can't do that again.
Mm-mm.
So that's what makes me think like, okay, we're probably headed for that. A lot of the maps that are being introduced right now are Forge maps or are just like reskins of the pit, and both of those are just getting annoying. So I do think there's an expiration date on Halo multiplayer. I don't know when it's coming, but we've seen like when Halo multiplayer is actually like feature ready, it still brings in the players.
Yeah.
So, and moving the game to Steam was a choice. I really would like to see an option to only play against controller players or only against console players in the future. I don't think that that's a choice right now, but I would like to see that in the future. Um, and yeah, but 343 definitely seems to be turning the page. They seem to be turning the page here, and in a good way.
Yeah. Good. I mean, I think they hit rock bottom, to be honest with you.
They did.
And the leadership change really opened a lot of people's eyes to that franchise and that studio. And so good on them for turning it around, right? I mean, you never want a studio to fail, right? In a story, a feel good story is always warranted, right? But like a studio as big as 343 and a franchise as big as Halo should have never gotten to that point.
No, and I think it's just been like kind of a constant spiral since 343 took over in a lot of ways. It's Man, they took the franchise over what after Reach.
Yeah.
So they've had the franchise for 14 years this year. It's it's time to let. I'm glad that Certain Affinity's working on the multiplayer now and is like basically the lead on it because it's time for some fresh blood.
Mm-hmm.
It's time them deciding to shift the franchise to Unreal 5 going forward is a really good idea too. That makes it
Mm-hmm.
easier to hire people. You're not trying to making the Slipspace engine was just such a waste of money.
Yeah.
That was such a waste of money and time and resources. And I understand like when it comes to shooters, you don't really want to change your engine because that affects how the game is going to feel. That's why, like everybody's been having to explain to Destiny fans why it's not just so simple to like change to Unreal 5. You have to remake all your assets and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Slipspace is going to be a one and done. It's going to be a one and done on this game. They've already abandoned it for the multiplayer going forward. Um, it is what it is. I would like to see another Master Chief story, and like maybe let that be the end of Chief for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
We had that nice 5-year break between Halo 3 and Halo 4 where yeah, we got Halo games, but there was no Chief.
Right.
And that made 4 really special when it came back. I think 4 has an incredible story. The multiplayer is whatever you think of it. And then 5 was a catastrophe. And look at all the time between 5 and Infinite. Infinite came back and was a really special story. So, I think the writing is still there for Chief, but I do wonder how long you can keep doing stories with Chief without Cortana.
Right.
Because even though Cortana is not she is in Infinite, but she's not.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that the weapon was necessarily bad as an AI companion. I actually think she was really great, but there's just something about that Chief and Cortana connection that like it's not Halo without Chief and Cortana.
Yeah.
So
Would you be opposed to like 5 years from now they say, "Hey, we are rebooting Halo"?
at this point, it wouldn't surprise me. I think Halo Infinite was essentially supposed to be like the semi reboot
Right.
of the franchise. Like it was a very deliberate choice to only have 2 human characters in it. Um, but I'm hesitant to say yes because there's so much beyond the games that they've done with Halo.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 30 novels, there's all these graphic novels, and like by and large most of the expanded universe is really well done. I don't want all that to just disappear to get some game sales.
You don't want them to Star Wars your Halo.
Oh my god, please don't Star Wars my Halo. But at the same time, I mean, we're coming up on, God, 24 years of Halo this year.
Yeah.
23 years of Halo this year. Like, by the time the next one comes out, I mean, I almost certainly think that the next Halo comes out with the 25th anniversary, which would be 2026. I'd be really surprised if there wasn't another Halo out that year, like especially a Master Chief story. But there is a finality that needs to come with Chief, and Chief's story doesn't need to end with him dying. It just, you can let other stories happen in this universe without Master Chief, or like he's just spoken about in like whispers and this and that. Like, there is a way to do that. Gears, to circle back to our Gears topic to close it out, Gears, you can't do that. Like, as much as, I like Kate and Dell and JD, you still really wanted Marcus to be a part of this.
And he very clearly is, right? I mean,
yeah.
That was like the big, everybody was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about these new characters. And then that second reveal, they revealed Marcus, right? Sitting in his house. And everybody, old man Marcus, everybody got, like, that was the point where people got excited for Gears again.
Yeah.
So if you would have told me that when Gears 4 was coming out, that Marcus was more important to Gears than Master Chief was to Halo, I would have thought, well, maybe you should rethink things. But now, like, tell those other stories in Halo. Get other Spartans involved. I mean, get a new Spartan in there. Like, let somebody, what's going on this side of the universe?
The problem is, I feel that like Locke was supposed to take the torch from Chief, and it just fumbled the ball so badly that they can't even mention him in the game anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a shame, because I do think that like Master Chief is like, he's becoming one of those sacred characters in games. I think that we're just so afraid of him getting messed up. Like, even in a subpar game like 5, they still gave Chief a good story out of it, even if Blue Team is such a minority in it.
Yeah.
You're running the risk of not being able to do that. And they've done a good job at not like writing a bunch of books that take place like during or after the games with Chief in a starring role. They all most of them take place before the fall of Reach, for example.
Yeah.
And that's a really, really good decision on Microsoft's part, I think, and on 343's part at steering the franchise. But 343's now been in control of the franchise longer than Bungie was. And we're getting to a point where I just need 343 to work on something that's not Halo. Preserve the specialness of Master Chief's story. If you want to keep updating the multiplayer, like, I'm totally cool with that. You don't need a Halo single player story to get the multiplayer going or to release a new multiplayer title.
No. And I think with Game Pass, they can do that. They can totally do that, right?
They can totally do that. They don't, especially if you're not going to care about physical sales anymore.
Yeah.
But Chief's stories should be special. You should put one out when you have a story to tell, not, oh, it's been 5 years, we got to crank out a new story. Like, right. No, just take your time. Like, once a generation, I'd be totally fine with a Master Chief story.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what we've gotten to, by the way. So
yeah, one major Master Chief story, and then you could do 2 like smaller side stories, right? Like, you could totally do
There's plenty of other Spartans you could tell stories about.
Yeah.
Or even like an ODST style story,
Yeah.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want Nathan Fillion back as Buck for like a, I don't know, 6-hour campaign?
Sure. Why not?
So,
speaking of why not, Quake 6 seemingly teased at Machine Games Developer Direct segment. We talked about it earlier during the breakdown of the Direct. Quake 6, man. It was so funny. I was reading some of the comments on some of the stories I was reading. It was like, what was Quake 5? And everybody's like, oh, Quake Champions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, man, people don't pay attention. If it doesn't have that big numeral next to the title, it doesn't exist,
Yeah, I've seen some speculation going around about this, and folks being like, well, hey, this could be the multiplayer shooter, the slot in there for, when Gears or Halo is done for a while. And I was like, yeah, I don't think you're going to get multiplayer with this game. I think that it is going to just deliver another really, because, well, now the question is it id or Machine Games making it, right?
Right. And from that leak, we saw that id might be working on a Doom game. what
Everything
Doom
I will
Year
say,
One or something.
everything I've heard around Doom says that is not happening.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out from that leak,
Yeah.
like if Machine Games is working on it, would make sense because we did technically see that document that said they're
Yeah.
working on something else.
And it would make sense why they've been so coy around Wolfenstein 3. I would love to see a Quake game again. This would be another game, kind of in the vein of Doom Eternal. Like it would just be probably a really story driven FPS campaign. Because I mean, you're basically having to reinvent Quake for an audience that's never played it. I mean, Quake 4 was Quake 4 was a 360 launch title. I kind of forgot that when we were breaking it down earlier. That was a 360 launch title. It was an exclusive.
Yep.
Quake 4.
If you got
and
the
that
special
was
edition, you got Quake 2, didn't you?
Yeah, Quake 4 was really the sequel to Quake 2 because Quake 3 was an arena shooter. But it would make sense that they're making that Machine Games is doing Quake 6. They have done the remasters of Quake 1 and 2. I wonder if a remaster of Quake 4 will come eventually.
Yeah.
Because Quake 3 that's not going to happen. I'd be floored if it did at this point.
Yeah.
But Quake 6, man, I would almost rather just reboot the franchise at this point. You don't Quake 6, you're asking people to understand stories that like have not been readily available for a very long time. And I don't think that there's a lot of lore you really have to like worry about erasing. Quake is one of the older FPS franchises like Doom. Like, okay, if you did a Quake reboot, you could essentially like remake Quake 1 into whatever that Quake 6 would be technically. Like Doom 2016 was internally called Doom 4 before they settled on it just being Doom. So I do think that's probably what's happening here. I'm excited. If Quake happens, I'm excited. You cannot announce that anywhere other than QuakeCon. If you announce that anywhere else, you're doing a disservice to those fans.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think most of those fans understand what Quake is these days.
Yeah. Well, I think it'd be interesting to do that. I kind of wish they would just reboot it. Although Machine Games has been updating those HD remasters with new levels and stuff of Quake 1
I
and
heard
2.
that.
So I guess it would make sense. But well, Josh, do we want to hit on anything else while we're here?
No.
I would before we go into the Game Pass stuff, we kind of touched on it earlier, but there have been so many layoffs this year already.
Yeah, literally just I don't know if we did that on or off air, but Riot just laid off 500 people tonight.
Yep, the count according to this website I'm looking at is 532 people worldwide.
Yep, 11% of their total employees.
Man,
that is just,
and that's on top of the 1,800 from Unity. And the 170 from Discord, and
Twitch lost about 300.
Yeah, and the Embracer Group supposedly shutting down some studios that we don't know that count yet.
They're going to keep laying. Yeah, they've laid off a studio that's worked pretty closely with Gearbox, the Tiny Tina studio. Yeah, and that game was a huge success.
Yeah, man.
So they closed Free Radical right before Christmas. It's only going to get worse. Like we all got reports earlier this week that it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, a lot of analysts think that a lot of studios may see closure this year. A lot of mid to small tier studios,
which is a shame because we're already losing so many studios as it is, and we've already pretty much wiped out like the mid-level studios.
Yeah.
I said I was going to bring some charts tonight, and I'm trying to find them real quickly. They were some end of the year charts for from Circana. No, not for layoffs. For sales for games.
Oh, okay. Because that 2023 apparently 1/3 of the game industry was laid off, or was affected by layoffs at some point. which is a lot of people, man.
It's not great.
Oh my gosh, it just hurts to think about.
All right. The last thing I wanted to touch on was we got the list of the 20 best-selling premium games in the US this year. This includes dollar amounts, physical and digital form. The only major games that do not have their digital sales reported on here are Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and Mario Kart 8. The biggest thing to note here is Hogwarts Legacy ends the year as the best-selling game of the year with like 23 million copies sold.
Yeah.
Across all platforms. It is the first time that a non-Rockstar or Call of Duty game has been number one since Rock Band.
Which is insane.
In 2008. Yep.
That's so crazy.
It goes Hogwarts Legacy, Modern Warfare 3, Madden 2024, Spider-Man 2, Tears of the Kingdom, Diablo 4, Modern Warfare 2, Mortal Kombat 1, Jedi Survivor, and EA FC 24 as your top 10. Starfield falls at number 11, which is still pretty wild. I actually was really surprised that Starfield was that high.
Well, considering that just the way that Skyrim sold, it doesn't surprise
Steam
me.
really carried that. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably over half the people on Xbox, and that's being generous, probably played it through Game Pass.
Yeah, I would say the vast majority did. Rounding out the top 20, you have Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Resident Evil 4, MLB The Show, Dead Island 2, Final Fantasy 16, Street Fighter 6, Elden Ring, Mario Kart 8, and Minecraft.
Yeah.
So, just like kind of as like a ballpark figure, Final Fantasy 16 has sold about 4 million copies, so that's where number 16 is at on that list. Dead Island 2, I am shocked. I am shocked that Dead Island 2 did better than Final Fantasy 16 in terms of pure sales numbers. But nothing super surprising in that top 10. Maybe that FC 24 was that low.
Yeah.
Nothing else super surprising.
I mean, I wonder if they just didn't get the message out to the casual player that FIFA wasn't the title anymore.
Possibly, but I mean, just you look at all these games that are up there, and like, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom, Spider-Man 2, Hogwarts Legacy, like, those are some absolute juggernaut single-player games.
Oh yeah.
A new Mortal Kombat releasing, you expect that. Jedi Survivor's the other one. Pretty surprised it hung in there all year in the top 10. But great game. Great game.
Yeah. I mean, that the whole list is a list of great games, except for maybe Modern Warfare 3.
Modern Warfare 3, Dead Island 2.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything else.
Yeah. Madden wasn't very good this year either.
I haven't. I will be truthful with you. I have not played a Madden game in so long.
Well, you don't need to. I'm going to throw that out there for you. You don't need to. You don't need to.
You don't need to. Corey, why don't you take us to
Game Pass time.
The Game Pass games. I'm very excited for this one this week.
All right, Josh, here we go. We are starting with January 18th, which was 5 days ago. You're excited for Turnip Boy Robs the Bank, Josh?
I have it installed.
God damn it. Of course you do.
I actually am excited for this. I actually do want to play it. Just on the name alone, I want to play
What was the first one? Was what? Turnip Boy evades or
tax evasion. Yeah. I really want to play these games. I've heard, hey, they're fun to play a little. So I'm interested to see this.
So that's coming to console, cloud, and PC on January 18th.
Look, listen to this description. Turnip Boy is back. This time he's teaming up with the Pickled Gang to plan and execute the weirdest heist of all time. Shake down hostages, steal valuables, battle the fuzz, and use wacky tools bought off the dark web to move further into the vaults of the Botanical Bank.
God damn it. This is the worst.
This sounds fucking great.
God damn it.
I'm going to play this before our next episode.
Oh, God. Okay. F123 is coming on January 18th. So it's
could not care less.
Yeah. Power World is out on cloud, console, and PC.
God damn it.
Go Mecha Ball is out on cloud, console, and PC on January 25th. I don't even know what that is. It's a twin stick shooter, it looks like. Brotato is out. Are you going to download this too, since you're into your vegetable
I'm
games?
very excited about Brotato. Very excited about this. Phil Spencer's excited about this one.
Yeah.
He said he played a lot of it. A top-down roguelite arena shooter where you play a potato wielding up to 6 weapons at a time to fight off hordes of aliens. I'm so excited for this. But you know what I'm more excited about, Corey?
Anuchard.
Fuck
whatever
you.
That last one is.
Persona 3 Reload, baby. Console, PC, and cloud Game Pass.
Yeah, that one's going to be good.
Oh my god. This might be like the biggest scale remake that we've seen since Resident Evil 2. Just because this game was like very much a visual novel for the most part, and is now going to be Persona 5'd.
Yeah.
With open world exploration and things like that. I am so excited for this. I had a really hard time getting into Persona 3 Portable last year. I played the games in reverse. I played Royale, I played Golden, and then I tried to play Portable, and just
that was the wrong decision if you wanted to play 3 at all.
Well, I'm really glad I did that, because if I had started with 3, I would not have played 4 and 5.
Yeah.
But 4 and 5 are 2 of the best RPGs of all time. So I'm excited to play this. I've been looking forward to this for a while. I had been saying that the only way I was going to play this was if they remade it, and lo and behold, they announced a remake at the Xbox show last year. They released a really cool live action trailer today that I thought was some good fun.
Nice.
The opening video for it is out. The opening movie that plays before you go to the start screen, and it just, God, this game looks so fucking cool.
Nice.
I can't wait. A lot of friends that like Persona say that this is their favorite story in the franchise, which I'm like, I don't know how, because 4 and 5 were so good. So I'm really, oh man, I'm so excited for this. This is one of those, like, I'm happy it's coming to Game Pass, but I will be buying a physical copy down the line to be like, I supported this game. I bought it even though it was on Game Pass. Also, I want it for my physical media shelf. So
that's fair.
Which is like just turning into like JRPG City over here in terms of Xbox games, to be like, please keep putting these on Xbox.
And the last game is Anuchard.
I don't care about this game.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, sure.
I am pretty sad that Hitman is leaving Game Pass on the 31st.
Yeah, Hitman World of Assassination is leaving, and F1 2021, Josh, is also leaving.
The Hitman games are outstanding. If you've not played those, they are absolutely outstanding.
People love them. Yes. Also, it is on sale right now, the entire thing, for like $20.
Yeah, it is an absolute steal. It's all 3 games. It's all the DLCs.
All the content updates. The roguelike mode that people love.
Yeah.
So get it if you didn't try it and you want to try it out. There's also a demo out also if you want to do that. I don't know. There's multiple ways you could do Hitman, just like multiple ways you can play Hitman. But that's it, Josh. That's it. That's what's leaving Game Pass. That's what's coming to Game Pass. And that's the end of our show. I want to thank everybody out there for watching and or listening to this episode of Xbox Casuals. Josh, we got to figure something out, because the week we're supposed to record, I will be in Disney World. So
we may put off the show for a week.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but
we'll figure it out.
Yeah. So you may go 2 weeks without an episode, but that's fine. Josh, thank you for your time tonight, as always.
Always.
Where can we find you?
Twitter, Josh_Finn. I'm still there.
Still there.
Still there. I'm just muting everything related to the Kelsey brothers and Pal World.
Jesus Christ. Oh, man. You can find me at IamCorinHD on Twitter and other social media platforms. You can, if you're into Destiny, you can check out Tower Casuals, our sister show, our flagship show, some would say, if you want to go that far. Subscribe on YouTube, rate us on iTunes, rate us on Spotify. Well, thank everybody for watching and listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.